Welcome, everybody, to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rantz, Tommy Krysan. Hope everyone had a great Super Bowl weekend. If you were a Seahawks fan like I was, then it was a heck of a game. If you weren't a Seahawks fan or didn't bet on the Hawks, then it was a dud of a game. The New England Patriots really folded down the stretch offensively, in the playoffs and whatnot, and they just ran into a buzzsaw in Seattle's defense, which made the Legion of Boom proud. Remember, the Seahawks went to two Super Bowls with that defense 10 years ago. They won one. Well, now they did it again, and Seahawks become the 17th team in the NFL to win two Super Bowls, two or more Super Bowls. The New Orleans Saints hoping to join that club at some point in the future. And Tommy, I this game, you mentioned to me before we went on air when it was 12-0, it felt like it was 28-0. Even though Seattle's offense wasn't spectacular and they had to settle for 5 field goals, which was a record set by their kicker Meyer. The spread felt bigger than that.
Yeah, it really did. In fact, I got a text message during halftime from Anthony Gallo, the old Cadillac Cafe guy who likes to bet the halftime lines. And he said, I think I'm going to bet Patriots in the second half. I don't know if they can score, And then we didn't go back and forth after that. But, hey, New England picked a bad day to have a bad day. Seattle was just, tremendous defensively. I guess you can kick field goals instead of getting touchdowns if your defense is that good. But and Kenneth Walker, the MVP out of Michigan State, what a performance by him. Dude ran hard, had a little juice because his running back tandem, the other guy got hurt, was dressed in on the sidelines. But, and then Sam Darnold, what a story. This guy has been cut and let go and 14-3 with the Vikings last year, and now he's 14. I mean, quite a story for Sam Darnold. He threw some bad passes. He threw a lot of passes behind people on the wrong shoulder and whatnot, but their defense was just so good. Seattle gets it done. You just got to give them credit. And I heard, everybody's been hearing everything, but, they played in the toughest division in football this year with the 49ers and Rams in there. Cardinals aren't much. But when you throw those 4 games in against those teams, Rams and 49ers, I mean, it's going to prove your mettle. And I think they did, and they deserve to be the champ. Clearly better than New England yesterday. No doubt about that.
Couple of things. Sam Darnold and Tom Brady, only two quarterbacks to go back-to-back 14-win seasons in NFL history. I mean, that's pretty incredible right there, that stat. Also, you mentioned that division, the Rams, by the way, Seattle and the Rams, both plus 850 to win the Super Bowl next year. Early line. Both of them, the Rams and the Seahawks, plus 850 to win the Super Bowl next year. Walker, the running back, did not score a touchdown and picked up the MVP. You don't see that very often, but he was dominant, had, like you said, about 180 yards combined, through the air and rushing. Would have had a TD if it had been for the hold by the center there at the end, which also affected the over-under. So if you had the over, you were a little frustrated that call was made. I would say this. To me, Tom, the defense really deserved the MVP. They had 7 sacks. I don't think we've ever seen that, have we? The Bears, Dent got the
Yep.
MVP in '85 for the Bears in the Dome, but to me, this could have been the year to say, all right, the MVP was the Seattle defense, and not just give it to a person.
Yeah, I really think that would have been good. I get it with Kenneth Walker. He had a big impact on the game. Had a 29-yard run followed by a 30-yard run, when their defense was playing so well. But, yeah, you're right. Because, I mean, I don't think that even the hardest core Seattle Seahawks fan would tell you we won because of defense, not because of Darnold, not because of Kenneth Walker. They all did their role. But defense was the one carrying the flag. So, yeah, I think that would have been a little more appropriate to say, hey, that we're just going to give it to their defense, and that's the way it's going to be. So, so that was, it wasn't the most entertaining Super Bowl. It was boring. It was boring. Weren't a lot of penalties, in particular in the first half. It just was boring football. It almost looked like, and I didn't hear anybody else say this, almost like a preseason game. Well, you tried this play, you tried that play, and then you punted. So I don't
Did
know,
you
but
what did you think of his commercials? Was any of them stood out to you more
well, the
than another?
Budweiser commercial with the eagle, which according to all accounts, got the most popular commercial with the ad meter and the people who voted on it. But some of the other commercials were kind of boring too. I thought I didn't pay close
I love
attention to all the
the Dunkin'
commercials.
Donuts commercial with all the retro actors and stuff, Ben
Yeah,
Affleck and
well,
Tom
that was
Brady, and
entertaining. Yeah,
I thought
and
that was a
Jennifer
cool concept.
Aniston.
I like that one.
I always thought Jennifer Aniston was kind of good looking, but no. So no,
That's an
I don't.
original take, by the way, Tommy. There,
What?
Jennifer Aniston's probably good looking. That's original
Yeah,
take.
well, yeah, I know. But anyway, so I don't think anything really jumped out at you except the Seattle defense and the sacks. Not just the sacks, but the quarterback pressures, the hurries. They affected the quarterback. Will Campbell got a lot of work to do at left tackle, no question about that. And he's got to get better from it, and they say he will. But it wasn't any kind of overwhelming, like, oh my, the Super Bowl, the Budweiser commercial with the horse and the eagle. I thought was cool and kind of American, but other than that, it was just a whole hum. I think people spent more time on their phones for this Super Bowl than maybe other Super Bowls. Like I was swapping texts with the grandkids and a few other people and whatnot, but because you weren't glued to it, it wasn't so compelling and intriguing, but you were on the edge of the seat. Like hey, this play could make the difference.
What did you think about the halftime show?
I watched the Kid Rock show.
Oh,
It
you
was on
okay?
you.
Good. I'm glad we could talk about that because
I went to YouTube.
I watched
Okay, as
Bad Bunny.
soon
So tell me your takeaway on the Kid Rock show and everything.
I think the Kid Rock show kind of jumped at you a little bit, especially his opening song, and then at the end when he did the song to Charlie Kirk, about the Bible and about America, that got to a lot of people according to the reports. So I knew it was going to be on YouTube, so I immediately changed channels as soon as it was half, and I thought it was okay. I wasn't glued to it, but I thought it was okay, and it was just my choice to watch that one instead of the one you watched.
So besides Kid Rock, who else was there anybody else that jumped out at you in the performances or whatever for that halftime show?
Nothing really overwhelmed me, no. And I'm a Kid Rock fan,
Yeah.
so going in, I'm expecting him to put on a show, and he did. They were two completely different type of songs that he played. He had the hard rock, the Detroit Motor City. He had it going in the first song that he played, but then he went to a song for Charlie Kirk about the Bible and about America.
Did I'm not a giant Kid Rock fan. I mean, I'm more about his music. I don't, I like the guy as a guy, but I'm not a big fan of his music. I saw him perform in Gonzales, at his
Yeah.
deal that he put on the Rock in the Country a couple years ago, and it's just okay for me, not my jam. I checked out Bad Bunny, and I will say this: did obviously. Lady Gaga jumped in there. He threw Lady Gaga in there, which was a little strange. And I enjoyed her song because it's one of it was a duet that she did with um, uh, oh my gosh, a duet that she did. It's going to come to me, and I saw him in Vegas. Saw him in Vegas when I went to the LSU USC game. Just drawing an absolute blank. One of the best performers of all time. He did halftime at the Super Bowl 11 years ago. Anyway,
Bruno
I'm thinking
Mars.
Bruno Mars. Thank you. There's a duet that she did with Bruno Mars. Obviously, Bruno Mars was on there, and they changed it up and they gave it like a salsa version. But I enjoyed seeing her. It was neat seeing Ricky Martin give a cameo. Of course, Ricky Martin used to be with Menudo back in the 80s, and then he went and had an unbelievable solo career. I saw Ricky Martin, I think, in the Superdome like in 1999 or something like that, back in the day. And I mean, she bangs, she bangs. Remember, I think he did a Super Bowl halftime. I mean, it was it was great to see Ricky Martin. Didn't know he was still alive, but I'll say this about the Bad Bunny halftime. I enjoyed it. Didn't know what he was saying. It was obviously an homage to Puerto Rico and Latin culture. It was kind of like he took you around the island almost and introduced you to all kinds of things. And I thought it was entertaining and the choreography was incredible. And but there was funny. There was a meme I saw somebody posted. It was a Latin guy watching the Super Bowl and looking at the screen and just kind of shaking his head and squinting his eyes and it says to my gringo friends, don't worry, I don't understand what he's saying either. Because I guess with his dialect and the way he raps, and it's kind of like in the United States. Sometimes there's rappers out there that you just don't quite always understand the words or what they're saying or whatever. I guess Bad Bunny's the same way to some people. But anyway, I enjoyed it. It didn't offend me like everyone else. By the way, Puerto Rico is part of the United States, and one of our all that kind of stuff. They're citizens and blah blah blah. But I enjoyed it. I'm not citizens, but you know what I mean. We the thing I love about Puerto Rico, you can go to Puerto Rico without your driver's license. You don't even need to have to go over there with a passport. Um, the halftime was probably more entertaining. Whichever halftime you watched was probably more entertaining than the game, unless you were a gambler and had a deal. How did your props go? Did you bet any props?
Yeah, I bet the one about more than two players would attempt to pass, and that never happened. So I lost that one. That was
Okay,
the
so
only
you took the other way.
over.
Gotcha.
I thought that somebody else would throw a pass, and there were
Yeah.
a couple ways it could have happened, but it didn't happen.
I
And
didn't bet that one, Tommy.
that was
I
a
didn't bet any
small
props,
bet,
but
Ronnie.
I would have taken the two quarterbacks. I would have
Okay.
gone.
Well, you never know if one quarterback gets hurt, and
Yeah,
the other
sure.
guy's going to throw one. Yeah, and I made a small bet. My big bet was on Seattle minus 4.5, so I'm good.
Yeah, so we're both happy about that as well. You and Hunter McCann both took the over. I think it was what, 45 and a half was at the
Yeah,
line.
that's what I had.
Y'all both took the over, and I ended up not betting that. I think I let you guys get in my head a little too much. The fact that y'all were taking the over because I really liked the under, and I kept talking to myself about the under before kickoff. I ended up not betting it. I stayed with what I had, won some money, so I'm happy. But I just thought, man, the defense is fantastic. New England hasn't been playing very well. Darnold's, just and I really felt like there was going to be a 32-9 or something like that blowout. I really, in my head, kind of had that number, and I wish I'd have just trusted my gut and taken that under. But as it was, it still made it entertaining towards the end, and they were just one score away from covering. But
What
the under did.
Well, when Walker broke that, and I didn't see flag right away, but my first thought was don't slide, meaning like if you're
Right,
going to run down to the 5 and slide or step
right.
out of bounds, okay, knowing that the game is in hand. But then when I saw him into the end zone and then I saw the flag, I said, well, the odds are this is a holding penalty. And the center held. I mean, it was obvious.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
yeah,
think,
I'm
regardless of
also
that.
thinking, even when Patriots had it at the end, if they could get a touchdown
Right.
here, it's going to go over. So at halftime, it looked like the over bet was done. Forget it, ain't happening. And then you had a chance down the stretch, but it did not work.
I think on the Walker play, had there not been a penalty, I think he would have slid had it been under the 2 minute mark. But because it was just a little over the 2 minute mark, it didn't make any sense to slide. But I thought the same thing initially when he
Well,
burst into the open. Like, is he going to score or is he going to slide?
but I'm also thinking this isn't a game in November. This is the Super Bowl. He
Right.
wants to be able to tell his family and kids and grandkids one day, hey, I scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So you're right. If it had been like 30 seconds to go and they had a 9-point lead, he'd have been sliding. Okay, but anyway.
All right. Well, they introduced the Hall of Famers during the game. We saw Drew Brees in the end zone along with his 5-person Hall of Fame class. And speaking of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Tommy, you saw where they're announcing they're going to have some different. They're going to tweak some things about the voting. And one of the things which I like is that they're going to go back to in-person voting. They've been doing the Zoom voting with the committee ever since COVID. A lot of people have gone to Zoom with lots of things in life since COVID. But the in-person voting for the Hall of Fame, which is something that the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame does, and it makes a difference when you put people in a room and there's something about that change that makes it a very different experience for the voters. And I guarantee you, had they all been in the room to vote, I don't think Bill Belichick would not have gotten the votes. I don't believe that.
Well, let me ask you this question, and you've been involved in this at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Like when y'all vote, okay, is there any and like let's just play hypothetical. Let's say the 50 people vote and there's 39 people voting for Belichick, not 40. Is there a way to say, hey, let's make a motion to redo this vote, or can you, or once you vote, is that in cement and it's not changing?
I
And
feel
I know you
like
don't know about the NFL, but
okay. So first off, all I can speak to is the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, and I would say that that's never happened before. And since I've been around, where the votes came in, they weren't a certain way. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Usually what happens is that when it's somebody like Bill Belichick, right, or Tom Brady or Drew Brees, somebody that should be a no-brainer Hall of Fame first, unanimous like type of deal. Sometimes in the past, they've just said before the actual voting begins, okay, we've got to select 8 people. We've got Drew Brees on our ballot. All in favor? Are we unanimous here? And everybody raised their hand. Yeah, everybody in the room raised their hand. Okay, he's in. Like we don't need to put him on a paper and all that. Now, this past year, there was talk of doing something like that for one of the Hall of Famers. And one of the people said, some of the people made the case, and so we didn't. Said, hey, look, I understand we've done that in the past, but like let's still go through the process. I don't feel comfortable, and so we went all right, and we went through that process. And of course they got in, but I want to say, Tommy, they got in, but on the second ballot
okay.
because of exactly what happened with Belichick. A lot of people assume that so and so is going to get in, so I'm not going to waste my vote for them. And then it's like, all right, and then
But
your votes come in. Nobody gets in on that first round of voting because you got to have a minute the threshold, and you do a second round. Of course, they get in.
but
And so I just think when you do it in person, there's a pressure of people standing up and giving their opinion and saying things, and here's what we're going to do, and, da, 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 and there's just less opportunity for things to go off the rails.
Well, see, I don't think you should vote or not vote because of what somebody else might do. And I spent 3 years on the Holy Cross Hall of Fame committee where we had votes about putting a team in or a particular athlete. So I think if you're on the committee, you should vote who you think should be in the Hall of Fame, whether it's Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, NFL, St. Bernard Parish, Holy Cross, Menard, whatever it might be. You shouldn't worry about, I'm going to do this because Ronnie's going to vote for that guy, so I'm going to go different. No, I think you need to vote for who you think is a Hall of Famer. You've been given a vote, so you have credibility, and somebody thinks you know what you're doing. I don't think it should be, oh, I don't, he's going to get in, so I'm not voting for him. I don't think that's the right way. And again, this is just my opinion.
All right, a couple topics locally. LSU women, they take care of business. They have
Sure.
another 30-plus point win on the road at Auburn. By the way, Tommy, 15 wins this year for LSU's women by 30 points or more. That's pretty impressive. LSU men, on the other hand, you were there for the loss, the debacle against Georgia. LSU men now, I believe, 2-9. I think you said on the season in the SEC. They had a big double-digit lead in the first half, lose it in the second half, a la Kentucky.
Ronnie, let me just say this about LSU basketball. I knew when I was 12 years old that the best way to break a press was pass the ball. Okay, they try to dribble through the press countless times. Georgia had a very good press, very aggressive, forced turnovers, forced some really bad passes that weren't even close to somebody. I mean, how can they not know that? I mean, I don't know. It was just, they got to the big lead because they came out and shot the lights out. They normally don't shoot well. They were shooting well. My daughter was with me at the game. I actually looked at her. I said, Bridget, they're not going to keep shooting like that. I bet Georgia wins this game. Well, after she thought I was real smart, but anyway, LSU just, oh man, I don't know, it's just
Did
not
you
a good
stay to the
basketball team.
very end?
Yeah, because my grandson, how about this? Marcus Norton hooked us up with some tickets. They picked him to be one of the courtside ball boys. So like he was bringing the water to the referee and got a little shirt, and my daughter asked him, said, "Do you want to go?" He said, "No." So we stayed to the very, very end. I saw Casey McKenzie and Brandon Holly from Relief Windows. I went and talked to them down courtside while waiting for my grandson to get done. So yes, I did stay to the final buzzer.
Well, if you stayed to the final buzzer, then you looked around with about 3, 4 minutes to go in that game, and there was less than 1,000 people in the stands.
at the height, there wasn't many more than that, Ronnie. It was
Hmm.
a very small crowd. Georgia had maybe a dozen people that made the trip in from Athens, if that, aside from their support personnel. But yeah, it just, I mean, it was a 5 o'clock game Saturday. Just wasn't a lot going on. And it's a bad
I know
basketball. There's
LSU
no other
bad.
way
I
to say
know
they're a
Verge
bad
Osborne.
basketball team.
I know Verge Osbury does not want to have to fire, McMahon and his staff and buy him out and buy a new coach and all from an economic standpoint. Like the last thing he wants to do, I'm sure Verge is praying that somehow they go on a hot streak and can finish and win, 4 or 5 and, to where he can make some kind of justification to keep them around another year. But the reality is that apathy is officially set in on this LSU men's basketball team from a fan's perspective, from a caring perspective, and it's probably only going to get worse. You're looking at them maybe winning another game or two, finishing in the bottom, 2, 3 in the league. It's going to probably be so bad that he's going to be forced to make a change, even though he really doesn't want to.
Well, the perfect example of apathy is even when they had a 15-point lead, I believe it was 31-16, and I looked and say, hey, they're going to lose this game because they can't keep shooting like that. Well, there were probably a lot of people in the building, not a lot of people in the building, but a lot of those who were there thinking, are they going to blow this? Are they going to be able to hang on? What's going to be the case? And then, Georgia kind of cut it down, kind of tight at the end of the half, got within shooting distance, and then, it was just Georgia. And again, Ronnie, you break a press passing the ball, not dribbling through it. I mean, I learned that when we were 12 playing bitty basketball in St. Bernard. I mean, come on. How can they not know that?
All right, TK. Finally, in the PGA, the biggest golf tournament of the year, not named one of the 4 majors, the Phoenix Open, the Waste Management, which is the fans' biggest tournament of the year. Another giant record crowd, over 600,000 through the turnstiles. Saw a good one. How about this stat? 7 of the last 12 tournaments have gone to extra holes. Almost 50%. Of all the Phoenix Open tournaments have ended in extra holes, which is crazy.
Well, it's
But
something they're doing, Ronnie. This is new on the tour. They talked about it yesterday. The playoff went to the 18th hole, and they were going to keep playing the 18th hole. And if they got to the third time of playing, they were going to change the cup on the
change the
green.
tee. Yeah,
And the reason was why make all these people relocate to the 16th tee or the 17th or
right.
whatever? I think the tour is going to do that so that the crowd can hang right there. And if they'd have had to play it a third time, the cup would have been, either way different than what it was the first 2 times. So I like that because it actually helps the fans instead of
Well,
running all over the
most
course.
most tournaments do that. They play the 18th over and over again, but some don't. Some will do, hey, let's go back to the 16th, and you play the 16th, 17th, 18th, and then you come back around. But the Zurich, for example, has done play the 18th over and over. They've been doing that for as long as I can remember, and many others. But you're right. Some do go back a couple holes. Goddard wins the tournament. A young man from Oklahoma played college golf at Oklahoma and Rutgers. His second win in the last 4 tournaments. He, relocated to Florida this offseason and started training down there and getting his game together. And obviously, he is off to a blistering start. The best golfer in the world right now through the first month of the season. Scotty Scheffler with a ho hum third place finish, but Morikawa, unbelievable, Tommy, how
Matsuyama.
Matsuyama. I'm sorry, not Morikawa. Matsuyama. Matsuyama, who finished second, blew it for you. You were going to win some money had he won the tournament. He goes ahead and bogeys the final hole of regulation, which he hadn't had a bogey on the back. I think all tournament or something. But the thing that amazed me about him was when they said he was only hitting fairways and regulations like 40% of the time.
He hit 2 Sunday.
And the thing is that the guy was about to win the tournament, and he won it by only, but he almost won it by hitting fairways and reg just a little over 40% of the time. That's incredible. That tells you how good at everything else he was.
Yeah, no, well, his short game and putting is money. And I was surprised because normally he does, most golf tournaments are lost, not won, and he made the mistake. Bogey in 18 when a par would have got him a win. and then hitting it in the water the first time they played 18th in the playoff hole. But he's still a great golfer. He's so fun. He's like Justin Rose. He's just a machine. He looks at the middle of the green, he hits it there. He goes up there, he two putts, gets it close, he makes the putt. But he'd only hit 2 fairways yesterday. So yeah, that speaks a lot for the rest of his game. And they kept saying if he starts hitting fairways, it's going to be a runaway. But that's the beauty of
That's
golf. I
that's
mean,
that's
you got to do it
amazing to
all.
me. You're talking about one of the best golfers in the world and has been for a decade, and for him to go up there on that extra hole, he had to back away from the ball. He started to swing down towards the ball. And he heard a crowd noise or something that distracted him, so he stopped and backed away. You hardly ever see that, and yet he goes and after regrouping, deep breath, puts it in the drink, duck hooks it. I mean, that was a Ronnie Rantz shot that he had right there on 18. Like what? Like I mean, I could have done that. I mean, what are we doing here? At least safely flare it out in the fairway to the right and give yourself a chance. He gave himself no chance right after Gotterup had smoked at 330 down the middle of the
Yeah.
fairway. He goes, he knows he's got to hit a good one, and he puts it in the water. Like that was shocking. Shocking.
The other thing too, going into that playoff, Matsuyama was 4-1 in playoffs. Gotterup had never been in a playoff. So
Right.
you're thinking, okay, you got to lean to Matsuyama here. Didn't happen that way. Now they'll move over to Pebble Beach for the Pebble Beach Pro Am. One of our favorite events to watch because of the beauty of Pebble Beach and the close golf courses that are down there. And of course, Ronnie, I can't believe we're 26 minutes into the show. LSU baseball plays this Friday, 2 o'clock. Milwaukee Panthers. Right now, the weather forecast looks like it'll be okay. It won't be freezing cold. And we'll get to see the first look at the 26 Tigers.
Yeah, I'll be going up to the College Baseball Hall of Fame Wednesday and Thursday to help present the Skip Bertman Award, which is to the Coach of the Year. So Coach Neffendorf at LSU Shreveport will be receiving that award from 2025. I'll be presenting it to him. And oh, by the way, speaking of LSU Shreveport, the streak is over.
Well,
65 games in a row going back to last year. They lost the first game of 2 that they played on Friday.
and they lost their second game yesterday. So they're 8-2 this year, back to like normal baseball. One thing I want to shout out to an old teammate of mine, Paul Gilly, who's an umpire forever, went to Omaha 4 times, was a crew chief in Omaha once as an umpire, going to go in as an umpire, one of the few umpires to go in the College Baseball Hall of Fame. He played first base. We were seniors the same year at Southeastern. He played a little first. Like I tell you this story because he'll laugh about it. Ronnie, this dude hit like 10 home runs in our first 20 games. We didn't even know he was a home run hitter, and he was batting like 400. And we're like, what is this? Because he didn't even play the year before anywhere. Okay, and he came to Southeastern and played. Ronnie, he went like 0 for 60 the rest of the year. So that hot streak, as baseball will do, came to an end. But Paul's a heck of a guy that I've known for a long time. Obviously, we were teammates. Hired me to work for the SEC that one year when they first had the umpires with the reviews, and I did text him yesterday to congratulate him, and he appreciated that. So tip of the hat to Paul Gilly. You hardcore LSU baseball fans, you saw him umpire many, not just weekend game, but midweek game at the box, and did go to Omaha 4 times. So I guess as an umpire, that's kind of the goal, right? And he was crew chief the last time he went to Omaha. And umpire countless regionals, super regionals, the whole
the old saying, Tommy, those who can't coach and those who can't umpire, I guess, right?
Yeah, but I'm happy for Paul Gilly, and a lot of our old teammates were all texting about it. I sent you the thing, but I sent it to a lot of people. They had a thing at CrescentCitySports.com about him being in because he's from New Orleans. He went to East Jefferson High School, so it was cool. A lot of people know Paul Gilly. I was happy for him.
All right, TK, tell us about Court Street Cafe where you're broadcasting from as we get out of here.
Yeah, breakfast, lunch, dinner, 7 days a week. Of course, Valentine's Day this Saturday, they got steak night here. Get you some reservations or come get the Sunday brunch. Jason and the staff do a super job here at Court Street Cafe. Just a couple of minutes over the Mississippi River Bridge. You've heard us say that many times. Court Street Cafe, Port Allen. Hit them up on Facebook and Instagram. Keep up with the lunch specials, the dinner specials, the drink specials. It's all right here in Port Allen. We've been coming here for a while, and we're always happy to be at Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. Don't forget to like and share this show, regardless of where you're watching, Facebook, YouTube, or X. Like and share this show. We're back Wednesday morning with another episode of Sports Shorts Daily. Until then, have a great day, everyone.